Hello, in this video we're going to talk about cleaning and maintaining a countertop water distiller. As you can see from the name Kenmore on the side of this distiller, it was purchased many years ago from Sears. Well, Sears doesn't sell these anymore. Not even sure Sears is even in business anymore. But if you look online, you'll find that a lot of people still sell this very same design. What we're about to show you should apply to just about any countertop water distiller that looks like this. Now sadly, you don't need a flamethrower or explosives for this job, but you will need a few simple household tools, like a screwdriver, plastic bristled cleaning brushes, a rag or a sponge, and some white vinegar. This water distiller is pretty simple. It consists of a heating element that produces steam from water in the thermal chamber. That steam is drawn up by a fan into the cooling coil, where it condenses back into its liquid form and then passes through a charcoal filter and drips into the jug that collects the water that has now been distilled and filtered. So let's get started. First, we'll detach the cooling chamber from the base of the unit. We'll set that aside for a minute. Next, we take the heating chamber over to a sink. As you can see, it has a lot of gunk built up in it. You probably shouldn't let it get this bad. We'll proceed to fill it with some water and rinse out as much of the sediment as possible. Follow that up with some scrubbing with the plastic bristled brush. Once the sides and bottom of the heating chamber have been scrubbed out, we'll dump out the water and take it back to the workbench. It's already looking a lot better, but we're not done yet. We just got the big pieces out. So we'll dry off the bottom portion of the distiller. Get it filled up with about a 50-50 solution of distilled white vinegar and water up to the point where the sediment is. Reset it, and it'll start heating. Now we can turn our attention to the cooling chamber. In our case, we need to remove 3 screws in order to disassemble this portion of the machine. With the screws removed, the top just lifts off. Ew, that's dirty. Detach the charcoal filter, and that will allow this unit to sit flat on the work surface. The fan blades on our unit are just a press fit onto a post, so you can just carefully remove it by pulling on it. Now that the condensation coil and motor are exposed, we're going to use a vacuum to clean out as much of the dust as we can. At this point, we'll pull the condensation coil out of the housing very carefully and proceed to vacuum it out as well. Since we have our vacuum cleaner handy, we're going to also use it to clean out the housing as much as possible. The vacuum removes most of the dirt and dust that's built up in this machine over the years. Whatever's left over can be removed the old-fashioned way, with a combination of brushes and a rag. Now that the top is clean, we're going to turn the cooling housing over and clean the inside. Remember, in our case, we're having to clean up a machine that hasn't been cleaned in many years. Also keep in mind that while we're cleaning the top portion of the machine, the bottom is heating up that water and vinegar mixture and removing years of built-up sediment. Since the machine is disassembled at this point, we're going to deep clean every single part of it using every tool and every method we have at our disposal. Now that the coil and housing are pretty much deep cleaned, we'll reassemble that portion of the machine, being careful to align the intake and outlet pipes into their correct positions. Back at the sink, we'll deep clean the fan blades and the charcoal filter housing. Oh, and don't forget, our vinegar and water is still working on that built-up sediment. The enclosure that houses the parts from the top of the machine that we've been working on is also really dirty, so we're going to deep clean that as well. Once all the parts and components are dry, we have to reassemble the top of the machine, and that's basically putting it back together in the reverse order of how we took it apart. At this point, the water and vinegar mixture has been simmering for just over an hour, and we're not completely sure the thermal chamber is as clean as we want it. To be safe, we'll empty it into a bucket and check if we're satisfied with the amount of sediment that's been dissolved. If it looks good enough at this point, you're done. In our case, it needs to simmer more. So we take the mixture in the bucket, put it back in the machine, and plug it in for a while longer. After about 2.5 hours, the sediment is mostly gone, so we scrub and rinse it out one last time. The machine is now deep cleaned and ready for another 25 years of service. Next time, maybe we won't wait so long to clean it. If you found this video helpful or entertaining, please consider subscribing to the channel and supporting our work on Patreon. Thank you for watching.